Good evening, everyone. Hi, I am McKenna. I'm the owner of Murder by the Book in Houston, Texas, and I'm very excited tonight to be joined by May Cobb and Amy Gentry. Thanks to those of you who continue to tune into our virtual events. We really appreciate it, and we've enjoyed having such a great, solid audience who just keep coming back night after night for these events. If you're new to these, you can check us out at murderbooks.com for a full upcoming event listing. We do dozens a month, and so lots of authors that we're speaking to, lots of new books to hear about. Also, if you're unfamiliar with us, we're a crime fiction bookstore in Houston, but we also have a new subscription plan called Murder by the Box. You can find out more about that at murderbythebox.com. We have several packages, including Best of Month, Cozy Corner, and Crime Fiction Legends. They just show up at your door like a fun surprise every month. So again, that's murderbythebox.com. I'm going to go ahead and drop a link in the comments right now on Facebook and the live chat on YouTube. If you want to order either of these authors' books, there's more information and the ordering link available. And as something very special, we also, for this one, The Hunting Wives, brand new, out yesterday, May is going to be coming by the bookstore early next week. So if you'd like a personalized signed copy, order it at that link, and in the comments on the order, just put your inscription information. For those of you who are unfamiliar, personalized just means if you want the author to write your name in there. So I would do to McKenna, and then she will still sign the book. So as I said, signed personalized copies still available. If you'd like one, try to get that order in by Saturday at 6, just so we can have them all ready for her when she comes by on Monday to sign. Okay, I think that's all about all for announcements for now. Let me go ahead and get the stars of the show on here. If you have any questions, put those in the live chat on YouTube or in the comments here on Facebook, and we will get to those later on. Okay, so May Cobb. Hi, May. Hello.
Hi, McKenna.
All right,
we're gonna. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for being here. I think maybe your screen's a little frozen, but we can hear you just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and get you introduced. May Cobb earned her MA in Literature from San Francisco State University, and her essays and interviews have appeared in the Washington Post, the Rumpus, Edible Austin, and Austin Monthly. Her debut novel, Big Woods, won multiple awards. As a Texas native, she lives in Austin, Texas with her family. And as I said, congratulations on The Hunting Wives. We are so excited about all the success of this book, and it is well-deserved. As you know, we all loved Big Woods, and this is just such a great thing for you. So thanks for being here tonight. All right. I think maybe we are having.
I'm so excited.
Oh, good. May, I'm going to ask you to leave for just a second and come back. Your connection's a little tricky. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Amy, and I'm going to hope that you are back on shortly. Are you there, May?
Okay.
All right, come back on. Something happened. We were good at the pregame, and now we're a little frozen. So, okay, I'm going to get Amy introduced, and then May's going to come right back. All right, so we also are joined by Amy Gentry, who is the author of Good Is Gone, a New York Times notable book, and Last Woman Standing, most recently also Bad Habits. She is also a book reviewer and essayist whose work has appeared in numerous outlets, including the Chicago Tribune, Salon, the Paris Review, the Los Angeles Review of Books, and the Austin Chronicle. She holds a PhD in English from the University of Chicago, and she also lives in Austin, Texas. I am looking forward to this event tonight because I know both of you are friends. So once we have May back and not glitchy, I know it's going to be a great conversation. So for the time being, until she comes back, this is what I get for saying there's never any issues. Everything's fine. Okay.
You know what? Maybe I could just say a few words just about, because I was expecting to introduce May. You've done my job for me amazingly. Maybe I could just say a few words about The Hunting Wives. And thank you so much, McKenna and Murder by the Book. You know that y'all are like the best. We all love you. And these events have been really great during the pandemic. So anyway, The Hunting Wives, the reason we are gathered here together today is for this amazing book that came out just yesterday, but has been taking the world by storm. I swear I have seen it everywhere. It's been on every list, every hottest reads of the summer list. And because McKenna, you already gave us the whole biography and May's backstory, and that this is her second novel. And I'm just gonna, I keep doing this backward because I'm mixed up from the camera. I'm just gonna read my words about Hunting Wives because they're somewhere on the actual back of the book. I called it Big Little Lies, but twice as naughty, and every character has a shotgun. Pulse pounding, sultry, and packed with perfectly plotted twists. It's going to be the binge read of the summer. It certainly has already been for me. I read it again this week, a second time by the water this time, and was just as enthralled by it as I was the first time. So May, are you back with us? A little bit.
I think she is. Maybe a delay. Maybe there's a delay.
Yeah. Okay.
Just clarifying. There's no delay between us, right, Amy? We're good.
I'm not hearing a delay with you. I think
okay.
we're okay.
Likewise.
Yeah.
I think that May got all the good Wi-Fi right before we hit start.
No, there was no problem at all before we started.
No. Okay. Let's just take a second and see if May is with us.
Mm-hmm. May, are you with us?
Oh,
I know. I heard you for a second.
I heard a let me try something.
Can you see?
Oh, we can see you, but you're frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to try and exit and enter
guys.
One more time?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. We're gonna make this work.
I kicked her out of the studio just a minute ago. I'm gonna do it again and let her come back.
We'll see you soon, May.
And you know what? For the time being, since we are going to do this anyway, anytime we have a guest moderator, I like to give you a chance to talk about your book. So why don't you? We'll just do this in reverse order. We're going to get to Hunting Wives shortly, but why don't we do Bad Habits? Why don't you tell us about this?
Okay, I'll tell you just a little bit about Bad Habits, which came out just this year. I cannot get the hang of that. Yeah, so Bad Habits is my third novel of suspense. It features two best friends or former best friends, Mac and Gwen, who reunite in a hotel lobby, but there are years of intrigue and disaster behind them by the time we meet them. Mac, a successful professor, does not want to be dragged back to her past by reuniting with this friend from grad school who she went through all this drama and perhaps even more with. So we dive back into the past. Over the course of a single night, we dive back into Mac's past and find out what happened between these two women to turn what was a best friendship into a lethal rivalry. So that's Bad Habits, and it's been available for a couple months now. So yeah, you can find it where bookstores are sold. But the main thing about it is that it is much like The Hunting Wives. It is also a book about complicated female friendships and rivalries and about aspirations. And both of them, I'm very excited when May gets back. We're going to talk about female characters behaving badly, because that's one thing that I know our books have in common that May and I have talked extensively about. So I'm very excited about that.
Well, in theory, she is on the screen here. There she is again. May,
Yay!
are you there?
I wonder if she could try microphone only, maybe at first.
Maybe. Let's see if I can control that.
I just want to hear her lovely voice.
Yeah. May. Can you maybe turn your camera off and see if we can just have you like a radio star? And maybe that'll work better. Okay. So, for those of you watching, we've only done hundreds of these events, and this proves that every night is just as stressful as the very first one because something can happen at any time. Let's see if May is going to come back. If not, I honestly don't know what to do.
I will just read from Hunting Wives.
There we go.
Love it.
There we go.
Yeah, I've been I'm primed for this with like a very small amount of white wine in accordance with what the characters drink throughout the book. So I could just do this all night. I don't know about you, McKenna, but I can.
Okay, perfect. We can take different perspectives, and we can turn it into like a a play. We can just you and I can read different quotes. Okay. All right.
I want to be Margot though. I want to be the glamorous one.
Well, clearly now we're just getting high maintenance.
I know. Well, maybe I could just kind of tell people if they don't know anything about the Hunting Wives, we could just give like a brief synopsis. So let's see if I can do this. So Sophie O'Neill, the protagonist of The Hunting Wives, has just moved with her loving husband Graham and her sweet son to there she is.
There she is. Now we can see her moving.
Yeah.
Yay!
I hope this works.
You're good.
I borrowed my husband's phone, so I think he just got a brand new phone today. So it's anyway. Hi guys, I'm so sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
We're so glad you're here.
So, ad lib award of the night goes, or of the year, goes to Amy. She has really been bringing it home. But I'm going to. So listen, I always go away at this point. I'm going to go away, but I'm going to be right here in case we have technical issues. But let's go ahead and start with when I leave. May, why don't you, although Amy was doing a great job, why don't you tell us about Hunting Wives in your own words? And I'm going to let y'all have fun. And again, I'm right here in case of emergency.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Hey,
and
Amy.
May.
Hey, everybody.
It's so good to see you.
It's so good to see you too. It's so good. I can't even. So we are going to get together soon, but let me talk about The Hunting Wives. So it follows Sophie O'Neill, who's a young wife and mother, and she's sort of ditched the glitzy life in Chicago. She worked at a magazine job. She was an editor at a fashion magazine. And she decides that she wants to raise her adorable toddler and take her dishy husband to this small town in Texas where she had spent a little while in high school. And she wants to like raise her son in this very slowed down, wholesome way and become this wholesome person. And very soon she realizes when she gets there that, yeah, it's fun to have picnics and go berry picking and stuff, but she's bored out of her skull. So she feels very restless. And then she crosses paths with Margot Banks, who's sort of the ringleader of the Hunting Wives, and she becomes obsessed with Margot. So the novel sort of trails her descent into obsession. And the Hunting Wives is like an all-female shooting club, and they shoot skeet and do other sort of crazy things.
Yeah, that thank you for that. That's a much better synopsis than I was about to give. I was like ready. I was doing it, but
no way, Amy. Amy wrote the best blurb ever for The Hunting Wives.
Well, I was gonna say you kind of missed the pre-show. I mean, you were kind of dealing with technical difficulties while I was talking you up. So let me just take a moment now that you're here to just say, I am so, so, so happy to see this book come out. I was incredibly excited about it. Even before I got to peek at it, I was stoked because I had read Big Woods, and that's around the time that you and I first met. We both live in Austin, so we had gone out to coffee back when you could do that safely. And I was just so impressed with Big Woods, and I just thought, I cannot wait to see what she's going to do next. And this book has just blown me away. I just think it's blowing everyone away. So I just couldn't be happier to get to be part of your exciting week. So thank you for that.
No, thank you, Amy. You know that I'm like one of your biggest fans, and I'm obsessed with your novels, and your thrillers are so razor sharp, and I wish I could write sentences like you, and plot twisting characters. And so anyway, we have to talk about Bad Habits some too, because it's,
I know, I'm dying to get to our post-pandemic coffee, which has been like promised for months and months. But so Hunting Wives. So tell me, Big Woods was a thriller set in East Texas. It had some horror elements, I think we can say, and it was set in the 80s. Hunting Wives set in a similar location, but with a totally different twist. So how did the idea for Hunting Wives come to you? And was it something that had been boiling for a while, or tell me all about it.
Yeah, so basically it actually came from my mom, and I was up in East Texas visiting her, and we were driving the backcountry roads, and she's like this phenomenal storyteller, and she just starts telling me about something called the Hunting Party. And it was this group when she was in high school in the 60s up there. And it was basically like the rich, popular guys. And they would go out on the weekends and invite people along into the woods. And they would sit on the hoods of their giant cars and shoot at rabbits and small animals. And she went once and she was like, whoa, I didn't know that's what was going to be going down. And when she was telling me that, I just had this image of how like that could go so wrong so quickly. And I thought for a split second that I would set it back in that era, but I just at that moment didn't want to do like a bunch of research and make it accurate. So I brought it to modern day. And then I don't know why, I just very quickly saw it as an all-female club. I really loved Ruth Ware's In a Dark, Dark Wood, and I wanted to do something in a similar vein with toxic female friendship and power dynamics and guns.
Now, I was dying to know the whole time I read this, do you have experience shooting a gun of this type?
Yes, I definitely do. So my grandfather and my father were pretty big hunters when I was growing up. It was, it's such a Texas thing, right? To have like a deer lease out in West Texas or whatever. So I went a few times with them, and then I definitely went skeet shooting a few times. And I was little. I was probably like 6 or 7, and I was kind of like Sophie, the main character, where the shotgun kick hurt my arm too bad, so I immediately lost interest. And that was kind of the end of my gun career. But yeah, I did have some experience as a little girl with it. So.
Wow, 6 or 7. That's like just imagining going hunting at 6 or 7. That is wild.
Yeah.
So the decision to make it all female is, I think, the thing that, the guns are and the setting are interesting, but I think it's that wives club thing that just like immediately grabbed me when I saw the premise. And it's such a great title. It's such a great cover. And it just tells you right away, like, what's going to be happening. It's like these ladies, these ladies are glamorous and they have guns. But so, I just wondered, and I'm seeing it popping up a lot on lists about female friendship and kind of complicated relationships amongst women. And so, is that, talk a little bit about that aspect of it, because that's what I'm most interested in.
Okay, that's such a great question. I'm really endlessly fascinated by female power dynamics, and it's something you do so well with Bad Habits that I feel like our books are like cousins almost. And I was on an interview the other day with a podcaster, and they said that Margot reminded them a lot of your Bethany, and I was like, ooh, yeah, that's true. They're very similar. And I think it's so interesting how women can have these effects on each other, and you can be 38 like the characters in my novel, but then find yourself behaving like you're 16 again. And they're almost more powerful over each other than the men in their lives. And I think that's so endlessly fascinating. You know, why is that? And I just love I love a good wicked mean girl, and so fun to write. And
I agree.
yeah. Yeah. And I really did want to give women a space that men usually inhabit, like with the men go hunting on the weekends and stuff. And I wanted women to have a space to behave just as badly as men do and not be judged for it, or, you know, just let them exist like that and all their messiness and female desire. And I really wanted to tap into it with as little filter as I could manage, while knowing that people I know very well are going to read this book. So.
Well, yeah, I love that. I love that the men in this book are mostly secondary characters. And I love that the dynamics between them. Like we're used to seeing, thinking of men's like pecking orders and hierarchies in male relationships as being something that's like very well defined, and that, you know, I don't know, male hierarchies are something we're really used to seeing depicted.
Yeah.
And I think there's just something so compelling about your choice to do this group dynamic. So there's, how many of them are there? There's 4 or 5?
Yeah, there's 5 of them.
Okay, 5. Yeah. There's 4 plus Sophie, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Sophie enters this group and they're already kind of established, and at first they seem like this united front, but then as she kind of, you know, learns more about them, she kind of sees them doing their little games with each other and sort of putting each other in their place, or like showing their belly.
Yeah.
And it's almost like anthropological, the way you've got this group all figured out. I was super impressed.
That's so funny. I love that, anthropological. That's how I felt about Bad Habits, because you're in this territory, and yeah, it's like open season in both of our novels.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think so. Mean Girl Margot, you know, like Mean Girl Bethany. It's funny that they're compared because they're in 2 such different milieus. I mean, you have like East Texas, like sort of suburban East Texas kind of, yeah, it's like they're an hour and a half outside of Dallas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and but they've got these kind of sprawling like southern mansions, and they're all looking perfect all the time. And then you have, you know, in my book we have academia, where people look terrible and are just talking about like, you know, Kierkegaard all the time or whatever. But in both situations, there is this queen bee character, and I feel like that's a real. I mean, that's something that's obviously has a lot of like reality to it. I mean, there's always, and I find, I don't know what you think about this, but I find that often female friendships are really, there's an idea that we should sort of idealize them, I think, and that the sort of only way to be sort of a good feminist and write good feminist books is to kind of idealize women supporting women and lifting each other up. But, you know, to me, I think there's so much complexity in those relationships that it would be, you know, it would be selling them short to just claim that they're all rosy. Is that something you thought about?
Amy, that's so brilliant. I don't think I consciously thought of that, but I love that. That's so very brilliant. It's so true. We're not always lifting each other up, and there's sometimes a dagger waiting behind the hand that pulls you up the ladder. So yeah, I'm very interested in group friendships and how people can behave outside their norm when they get under the influence of the group and the queen bee.
Yeah. How does Sophie behave? I mean, can you tell us a few things that she does, or would that be spoiling it?
No, yeah, I can go there a little bit. I think so. She definitely, it starts pretty tame, but then I know one night she stays out all night and she doesn't return her husband's text, and he's super pissed at her, of course. That's sort of like probably the most tame thing she does, but it's really, I think, gosh, you know, I mean, at one point she's playing spin the bottle with people she shouldn't be playing that with. And really acting, under the influence, I would say, of both alcohol and Margot.
Yeah. What is it about Margot that was like funnest to write and that drew you as an author? And what is it about her that draws Sophie? Because I was talking to a friend about this the other day, and she was like, Sophie comes from this. She had just read the book. She was like, she comes from Chicago. She's met a lot of glam people, right? And comparatively, like, what is it about Margot, who's from this small town, even if she's like the top of the heap there? What is it about her that makes her draw Sophie so irresistibly?
I think on one level, it really is just pure physical attraction. I think she's just it's funny because when I was going through some edits and stuff, I was really pushed to go into Sophie's backstory more, which absolutely needed to happen. But then sometimes I would say, like, it's just lust and it's okay. Mm-hmm. Like, because she's, that's really what's driving a lot of it. She's just like attracted to her. And I think Margot holds a lot of mystique for her because even though, she's not like from Manhattan or Chicago or somewhere that Sophie's used to, there's a certain like mystique to her because she is so powerful in her own like small pond. And she has I found her as an author, like very mysterious, and mm-hmm. I wanted to get to know her. And she seemed also complex to me and a little bit tragic. And mm-hmm. I was constantly trying, because I don't plan or plot a lot out. So I just write and try to let the characters lead me. And I was always trying to, I wanted to hang out with Margot and sort of observe and see how she behaves and figure out what makes her tick. And I think there's just something so, she's so self-possessed and so sure of herself. And Sophie just gets completely swept away. It's almost like narcotic for her.
Mm-hmm. I love what you said about like sometimes it's just lust and that's okay. I love that because that's kind of how I felt too reading the book. I was like, how many books have we read where the love object or the object of obsession, obsessive love, is just a woman who's, just very pretty.
Yeah.
And the male writer or the male protagonist is lusting or obsessed with her, and we would never question why. He hasn't even like met her or talked to her, but we're like, oh yeah, I get it. Like he's just obsessed,
Yes.
And I love that you put this character without going into a lot of backstory about like, oh, is she gay? Is she bi? Is she questioning? It's just like, it doesn't really matter. She's just obsessed with this woman, and it's a very physical attraction. And I love that way. I love the way you spell that out. And I think you're really good at depicting, you can always see, because we're in Sophie's perspective the whole time, we're seeing through Margot through her eyes. So we don't really have access to Margot either. What we see is this like, just kind of haze around her.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Yes, it's a total haze, like either from too much wine or sun or whatever, but it is. And I feel like you do that with Mac and her relationship with Bethany somewhat. There's a power component there for sure, but then there's also just lust too at the end of the day. Yeah.
And the lust and power are very often intertwined, because I think that also you say, she sees that Margot is like absolutely at the top of the social pecking order, and she can make people do whatever she wants. She can, I don't want to spoil one of the main things, but she can do something to this other woman in the group that is like really awful. And by the end of the interaction, she has that woman apologizing to her and begging her to stay. And like, it's just like fascinating to see. And I think, again, it's like there is something, whether we like that, whether we want to acknowledge it or like that it's true or not, there is something about that kind of power that has like a draw and an attraction.
Yeah. That's so funny. It's not like I forgot about that, but that's funny the way you said that she has this.
It happens multiple times, and it's totally believable that it would happen.
Yeah, I think we've all known a Margot that has that sort of effect, that you all of a sudden you're tripping over yourself to make it right when she's the one that made it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's like she who has the most aura just is right in that instance.
Yeah.
So you said you don't plot out books particularly in advance, and I'm really interested in that because I don't either. It constantly gets me in trouble.
Right.
But so what are your tips? Why do you write like that, and have you always done it that way? And then what are your tips for not getting like up to your eyebrows in pages that make no sense by the end of the book?
I have to take a sip of my beer for that one. Amy, I want you to tell me what to do, because the ending of Bad Habits, I'm like, holy crap, like really? I mean, so my process is basically I really learned, or I tried to learn as much as I could when I took, Amanda Ward's great novel in a year class, and she's so big on the 3-act structure and the key plot points. So I had that in my mind. I try to have that in my mind. I had it in my mind for Big Woods and for this one. What would be some of those key plot points and what maybe do the 3 acts look like? But I really also then just sit down and I write like a 1-page synopsis, almost like a pitch or a query letter, just to try to get an overview. Even if I don't know everything, if I just know the setup and the character's name, I'll kind of do that, and then I'll start writing. And I really wish I could outline, because it would make it so much easier, and you don't like pull up in your truck in front of this giant plot hole and you're like, oh no, I never thought that was going to happen. But I also don't think I can outline that much. Like I really love to just run through the forest at night and let the characters kind of lead me. And also I kind of want to be surprised.
Yeah.
And like for this one, I didn't really know who the killer was till about halfway through.
Wow.
Yeah. And then it was like, okay, why? And I did write it rather quickly. So I sort of wrote it in a fever of desperation. And that I think maybe that also helped, because it shut down my filter, because I had to write something very quickly. I was in between books and agents, and I needed to make something happen. But that's
so how do you motivate when you need to write something quickly? Like how are you working, like how many hours a day? I'm in awe that this book was a very fast book for you. And I know you're a fast writer. I knew you had written Big Woods very quickly too. And I know there's lots of revision that goes into that, but still I'm kind of in awe.
Thank you so much. I mean, pre-pandemic, I felt like I was pretty fast, but now it's like swimming through Jello every day. And I just sort of find, like, if I have 15 minutes and it's child free, then I'll just sit down and try to write. And then I do a lot of like walking around with my iPhone, and I take notes that way, and then I'll email them to myself. And then next thing I know, it turns into a chapter. Mm-hmm. So, but right now I find it very hard to focus. So I need you to help me with that. So how are you working these days? I mean, it's hard, right?
I just get off Twitter for 3-month intervals. That's the only way I can write. I discontinue all social media as much as possible, because I cannot, even in the good times, I had trouble writing when I was doing that. But now it's like, forget it. I there's plenty of bad news to read, and I could just sit there and scroll all day long.
I think that's so wise. That's so wise. I'm going to have to do that pretty soon.
it's hard because then you have a book coming out and you're like, well, I have to be on Twitter to promote my book, and my friend's book is coming out. I want to be on Twitter for that. So yeah, but then also, I mean, I love that you take notes on your phone. I do that sometimes too, but probably not enough. Probably just because I don't take enough walks. I should take more walks. But and then also, I do journal pretty much every day in the morning, like just brain dump journaling. Yeah. And I was thinking when you said that about writing the synopsis, because I don't do that, but I do write a lot of like versions of that in my journal over the year that I'm writing the book or whatever. I'm constantly writing like, you know, this is what the book's about, and I want it to be about this, and like, here's what I'm going to do in the first act. And so I feel like it's pretty similar, that we're kind of trying to put out there like some kind of map, loose map, but then we're out there with our flashlights finding, you know, the exact path.
I love that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's one thing Amanda really hammered home in that class was try to get your one pager down. And it really does save me, because then I don't get so fixated on, is this a good sentence? Is this a good scene? It's like, okay, wait, there's this big thing I have to do. And it gives me a bird's eye view. So it kind of gets me out of it a lot of like jams of like self-criticism and being stubborn.
I have a tendency when I'm trying to sabotage myself, I'll be writing along, and then I'll be like, wait, would it be that time of year when this plant is blooming? I think I need to find out. Well, let's just find out what plants do bloom in June in East Texas or whatever. And then now I'm on the internet going down this rabbit hole, and pretty soon I've convinced myself that like the whole chapter hinges on that I can't go any farther before I've like figured out this thing. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I love this. Amanda is so good, and her books are so good. I am not surprised that she has this teaching thing totally down, and that she has a system for it. But yeah, I love that she's had you focus on just getting it down, because I think, yeah, when you're working with a big project that has like a strong narrative arc, it's so crucial. Especially if you're not an outliner. If you want to be surprised, you have to build a world where surprises, where they'll make sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, for sure. It can't just be a stream of consciousness. There does have to be something there. And yeah, I love that you do that too. Like throughout, you're constantly thinking about that. I kind of think it's just the best way, or it is for me. Like you said, if you're not a big outliner.
I've tried, but I cannot do it. I am not very smart in outline. I'm not as smart in outline as I am in writing, like, because I think through writing, like that's how I work out the problems. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, but so we both like to be surprised by our plots. So what surprised you most when you were writing The Hunting Wives?
I think probably, without giving away any spoilers, probably that big late, like the big late twist that involves someone going away that maybe we, and some, yeah.
I love this spoiler-free version.
I know. I don't even know if I need to be spoiler-free because the book's out now, but
it's good to keep the people who are, maybe they haven't had a chance to read it yet. So,
yeah.
Although I guarantee that if you sit down to read it, audience, you will have read it by tomorrow. If you sit down tonight, you will not stop reading until tomorrow. So come back and see her next one with no spoilers.
Thank you. Yeah, I was surprised by that, which we will not speak of very much. And I kind of grappled with it, actually. And I went back and forth, and should this really happen? Should it not happen? And I actually had coffee with Amanda, and she was like, yeah, that's definitely got to happen. And I think it really helped, because otherwise I think the ending would have been a little more even and a little too flat. And that gave it an extra twist that was necessary to ratchet up the stakes of these crazy people that I'm writing about. So I just have to ask you real quick, Amy, what you're writing now, is it set in Texas? Is it?
Oh
Is
yeah.
it like, yeah.
It's actually set in East Texas.
Ooh,
So
yeah.
I'm gonna need coffee with you like
I love
soon.
it.
Because we're
That's
gonna
so
talk about
fun.
this.
Oh, I'm so
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah.
Okay, coffee
And
soon.
it's kind of because during this pandemic, I kind of went a few times on a writing retreat to a lake house. And I had already been writing a book set at a lake house. But I just didn't quite know where. And then I was like, how about here? Like, I'm here.
That's
This
so
is
great.
we gotta
it.
put our heads together on that.
Oh yes. Oh my God. I love lake books so much.
Well, this one has lakes in it. This one has a lake and it has
true.
pools.
Yeah.
It's very water oriented. And the
Yes.
entire time I was reading it, I felt you described the mugginess and like the sultry weather and the way that like after a storm or a rain, it still somehow feels even more humid than before.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to go swimming. Every second that I was reading that book, I was like, jump in the pool, jump in the lake.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. I was like channeling that. I think missing my East Texas lakes for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, so are you going to write your next one in East Texas too? Because your first two have been.
Yeah, actually. So the one I just finished, it's in edits now. That's set in East Texas again, and it's in another like small fictionalized town. And I just sort of stubbornly want to stay there because I find it to be such a sort of gothic noir place, and I kind of feel like I love how Tana French is always in Dublin or Ireland, and it works for her. And I'm like, I just really love it up there. And it's so eerie and also beautiful. And I don't know, I think it's such a great backdrop for suspense and thrillers. And like, I don't know, I feel like there's a budding genre of us Texas writers that are doing it now in that area. So I'm so happy to be a part of that. It's so cool.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel really excited about it, and I think you're at the center of it, and I could not be happier. So I am going to call back. I think we have some questions from the audience, so I'm going to call McKenna back on to moderate for us some questions.
Hi again. Whew. Kudos to your husband and his new phone, because problem solved, right?
He literally just got it today. Thank God. I'm like, oh my gosh. Wow.
Well, you know what? Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and reiterate once again, since the beginning was a little chaotic. We have personalized copies of Hunting Wives available. May is going to come by the store on Monday to sign and personalize. So if you'd like to order a signed copy or a signed and personalized copy, you can do that in the link that I've put in the comments. Just try to get those orders in by Saturday afternoon, so we have everything ready for her on Monday when she drops by. And of course, as usual, we always keep Amy's books in stock too. So the link is there for more information on both or to order. So we do have a couple questions. Sally from Murder by the Book, who both of you know, it has a long question. It's going to block you for a second, May, but I'll take it back off. Essentially, how did you go from Big Woods to Hunting Wives? They're so different in tone, with Big Woods being so spooky. Hunting Wives is such a roller coaster.
That's such a great question, Sally. I think, it's interesting with Big Woods, there's, the two narrators, and one of them is quite young. She's a teenager. And there was a little bit of, when my agents at the time took the book out, does this need to be YA or not? And so I knew that for my next one, I wanted to write something clearly adult. And I really went overboard because it's so adult, but that's sort of, it was kind of intentional. I knew that I wanted to, I love young adult fiction, but I don't think I can pull it off well. So I really wanted to definitely purposely write an adult novel, and that's hence the change, in tone. And I also wanted to do something like my heydays of going out to bars and stuff was well behind me, because my son was 5, and I wanted to do something fun and write something I could like remember drinking too much while I was writing and hanging out with crazy Texas women. So that's kind of why. I can't wait to see you, Sally. I hope you're going to be there Monday.
She will be there Monday. Yes.
Yay.
Monday is her day. So you will see her Monday. You will likely see me as well.
Yay.
Yay. All right, here we go. Another question. How do you inspire yourself for the next work in progress? She's heard of authors rereading previous books from others in their genre or movies, TV shows, etc. And I think we can let May answer and then also throw this to Amy.
And that's from Christina. Hey, Christina. Yeah, gosh, I think, well, I'll just specifically answer for my next novel, the one I'm in edits now. It was inspired by a movie. It was inspired by that movie, The Witches of Eastwick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love that.
Isn't it? It's such a great movie. And it doesn't have like any of the paranormal stuff, but I had read that like in an interview that Riley Sager sort of bases a lot of his books on inspiration from film. And so I was starting to think, you know, I need my next idea. And that movie I've always worshiped it. So that's how, yeah, I came up with that one. Amy, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
I always have a lot of ideas kind of sitting in the hopper, you know, like I tend to come up with them when I'm hitting a block in one of my books, you know, 2/3 of the way through, and then suddenly I have all these other ideas. So I have several waiting by the time I'm finished. And right now I actually recently had to pick between two and I wasn't sure which one, but it's like a weird divining process.
Yeah.
I do when I'm having a lot of trouble, I tend to go back to reading Henry James novels, which is very weird because none of my books are anything like that. But I find that I'm always trying to get at something that I first experienced reading his books, even though it's in a different genre. And I find that having his voice in my head for a while kind of resets me and reminds me what it is that is at the heart of the thing I'm trying to do. Like, it hypes me up to write, you know?
Yeah.
Then usually it all comes out sounding really Henry Jamesy, and I have to totally edit it. but that helps me when I'm, you know, experiencing motivational trouble.
Yeah. So we also have May's always wonderful publicist, one of our favorite people we love working with, Lauren. I know he's the best. What was your favorite or the most surprising part of the publishing process for you?
Oh my gosh. That's such a great question, Lauren. I really feel like I feel like I've died and gone to heaven at Berkeley, and I'm working with the dream team now. And that wasn't surprising, but it sure has been just such a wonderful thing. So I wasn't surprised, but I'm so happy. And I guess if anything's surprising, it would be how much work does go into a launch. And I don't mean from my end, I mean from the publisher's end, leading up several months before publication. I'm astounded at all that goes into it. I had no idea, because Big Woods was with Midnight Ink, which was, you know, a smaller press, and it was, you know, it wasn't the same at all. So it's fascinating to see what really goes into putting a book out into the world and launching it. There's so much to it. It's like, wow.
Yeah. Amy, do you have a favorite part of the process, like cover design or marketing or anything like that? That is like is there something that just sparks joy with you?
My favorite part is writing the book, and the rest is really hard. Sometimes it's joyful and sometimes it's extremely painful. But yeah, I mean, it helps to have a great team that's supporting you every step of the way, for sure. But yeah.
Excellent.
Writing the book is good.
Yeah.
I have questions for May, but I'm gonna let the audience questions first. But when there's a break, just let me know, because I'm gonna
ask one, and then I'm gonna let you ask one, and then we're gonna go back to audience. So this one is for both of you. What books did you read in your formative years? And was there a particular book that made you think, I want to be a writer? And you know what, Amy, we're gonna start with you this turn.
Okay. I just have been writing as long as I can remember, and reading as long as I can remember. And so there were certain books that I read, certainly that loom really large when I was a child. The biggest is probably The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle. Which I almost have memorized because I read it so many times and I read it aloud a lot. I really liked to read aloud when I was young. And then Alice in Wonderland was similarly like I just read it and read it and read it and read it. But yeah, I'm trying to, I don't know. I always think of trying to think of formative like crime related and mystery related stuff.
I mean, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. Like, I mean, if you revisit Henry James,
I did. Yeah, I read Nancy Drew and Encyclopedia Brown, but really John Bellairs is what got me. May, did you read John Bellairs when you were young?
No.
Really like scary middle grade novels.
Oh wow. Okay.
Creepy, and they have these Edward Gorey covers, or at least they did when they were first printed.
Wow.
And I was really scared of those books, but I like went back and snuck looks again and again. So I think I've always had like a little twisted imagination.
All right, May, your turn.
You know, I did have like a pretty healthy Nancy Drew collection growing up, and my dad had all the Hardy Boys. If y'all remember the Hardy Boys, and then I really loved Sweet Valley High.
I was just thinking about Sweet Valley. I was going to ask you if you had read Sweet Valley High. Yes.
Oh my God. Too. Yes. Completely addicted, right? Like that was
so trashy and so good.
Yes.
And talk about like complicated female relationships. Woo.
Yes. Yes, exactly. I know. So those are my, sort of like at the age where maybe, your imagination really starts to form. That's kind of, those were my jam. Sweet Valley High. I love that you love them too, Amy. McKenna, were you a Sweet Valley High?
Oh yeah, I definitely read Sweet Valley High, but I'm going to date myself as younger and just say that I read every single R.L. Stine book that came out. I had them under my bed, and I would go to the bookstore with my dad and would have the list of, when new books were coming out. And my biggest fangirl moment ever, completely mortifying, was when I unexpectedly met R.L. Stine at a Mystery Writers of America, Edgar's dinner. And I hadn't prepared myself, and I've met every author under the sun. And someone introduced me to Bob Stein, and I was like, R.L. Stine, and then it was just verbal diarrhea. So I ran to the restroom afterwards, and I was like, I read
old.
Huh?
Your heroes never gets old.
No, absolutely. And I remember a good friend of mine who had never seen me flip out on anyone. Meeting Stephen King, fine. Meeting R.L. Stine, horrible. And I remember her face of what is happening right now? But yeah, brilliant. I mean, I read those constantly, of course, Nancy Drew. But yeah, that's, we all have our things, and the Sweet Valley High books were definitely still around for that. I mean, honest to God, it was also American Girl books for me. Those were around, and I absolutely adored those. But anyway, okay.
V.C. Andrews, anyone? No one's copied V.C. Andrews.
If John was doing this interview, he would be all about that. John loves V.C. Andrews. So.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah. Okay. Amanda was wondering, I think the previously name dropped Amanda was wondering, can you recommend some great reads for us? So essentially, what have you read recently that you want to recommend? Either one of you can go first.
Okay, I'll go first. I have a couple right here handy. I'm reading this right now, Dial A for Aunties by Jessie Sutanto. It's so fabulous. I just finished The Last Thing to Burn by Will Dean. And I watched his interview with you, McKenna. That was amazing. I also really love Woman on the Edge by Samantha Bailey. And finally, The Girls Are Also Nice Here by Lori Elizabeth Flynn. Those are my recs. How about you, Amy?
The two that pop to mind immediately are forthcoming, because I've just been reading a lot of galleys lately.
Yeah.
So I hope that's okay. But be on the lookout for both of these. They're both debuts and they both blew me away. One of them is called Pay Dirt Road by Samantha. I think it's Samantha Jane Allen. And that one I think isn't coming out until next year, but it's a Texas book. I think it's East Texas Small Town. And so that is like right up your alley. You're gonna need to read it. And it is just so good. It's like add it to the canon of Texas noir. And then there's another one, Amanda Giatisa's debut called My Sweet Girl. Yes. And it's really fascinating. It's a thriller, but it also has these like almost ghost story elements. It's kind of a cross genre. And then half of it, the flashbacks take place in a Sri Lankan orphanage where the main character grew up, was a child. And it's just like unlike anything I've ever read before, both in the setting and also in just the way that the story is structured, and genuinely creeped me out. So anyway, that's a thrill ride too. My Sweet Girl and Pay Dirt Road are those two books.
I haven't heard of the first one, but I'll get it immediately, or when it comes out, I'll add it to the pre-order list. And then My Sweet Girl, I've been seeing that pop up, and that cover is so gorgeous.
Oh yeah, I wish I had it in front of me. I feel really dumb that I don't, but yeah.
Okay. Oh, Amy, you had another question. What is your question for May?
Oh gosh. Okay, May. Well, let's see if I can actually remember it.
Do you want me to circle back?
No, I think it was something about, oh yeah, because I was just in a book club recently, and I get this question in almost every book club. So this is not calling out this one particular book club, but there's always one person that says, why do you write such dark things? Why do you think you like to write these dark books? And I am putting that to you. I think in this company, we all know that we certainly love to read them. We love to write them. It's what we love to read. Yeah. But what do you think? I'm just throwing that to you. First of all, have you gotten that question before? And like, what is it that draws you to these subjects again and again? Because I feel like you're going to stay, I could be wrong, but in the dark thriller, horror, crime wheelhouse.
I hope so, Amy. Thank you. I want to find my place here. I hope I can. I think I think there's a lot of answers to that question, but one I would say is, I know as a reader, I like to read books like this to see sort of where these characters' internal moral compasses are and how far they can be pushed. And do I identify with that person, and would I do that in that situation? Because it's always like, ooh, it's a murder, but why? And would I be making those same decisions? And I think that's endlessly fascinating to sort of go on that journey and not have to do it in real life, and really probe at that social norms and bad behavior and murderous ways. So
yeah.
It's fun, right? Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm never going to get to kill anyone. So.
Yeah, exactly. Let's put our rage on the page.
That's right. I love it. Here's to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So Christina has another question. What do you both think about a shift in the genre where celebrities, politicians, and even Jake Tapper are writing books? And Christina, yes, the new Stacey Abrams book is fabulous. So yes, correctly, get excited about it. Either one of you with thoughts on that?
Amy?
I love it. I mean, I think it's great. Anybody writing in the genre, draws attention to the genre. And if they're like smart as hell, like Stacey Abrams, I'm pretty sure they're going to be able to write whatever they want to, and it's going to be amazing. And I'll read anything she writes. So yeah, I'm here for it. What about you, May?
Exactly. Same here. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. May, congratulations. Do you think having a mom who could tell great stories influenced you as a writer?
Hey, Julie. I do think it did. My mom really I mean, she can write circles around me and tell stories. She's so dry and funny and has such a huge imagination that getting to grow up with a person like her definitely shaped the way I saw the world, because she's always lived very much outside the box. So I think that more than anything, you know, made me sort of want to live a little more outside the box. And I mean, she definitely gave me the ideas for both of my, you know, my first two novels. And now that I'm staring down like the fourth, she pretty much gave me the idea for that one too. And then she texted me yesterday and she's like, what about this? And I'm like, oh my God, that's brilliant. Like, she's just like a font. So yeah.
Can I have her number?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Y'all would love each other, Amy.
I just want her ideas.
I know. I'm like, wow, thanks, Mom, because both my novels came from her. So
it's amazing.
Great. Okay, one last question, specifically for May, just because I think we can all agree that this has been an amazing book launch and we can't get away from it. How has this launch week been for you? Social media has been on fire.
Hey, Carol Ann. It's been so amazing and surreal and gratifying, and I hope this is not going to sound obnoxious, but I'm even having a hard time catching up with my notifications on social media, and because I've just been flooded with so much support and gratitude, and I can't I really can't believe it. So it's it's been, having it be a book of the month club pick really helped get the buzz out early about it and into some readers' hands, and it's been great. Wow, I sound like a crazy person, but it's fun. Anyway.
You don't sound like a crazy person, and I have to say, as someone who, you know, we've known you for a while now, like, it's just so great to watch this happen. I'm sure Amy feels the exact same way. Like, it's very exciting. We're all very supportive of it, and congratulations again. I will say once again, if you want a signed, personalized copy, order at the link in the comments through Saturday afternoon. May's going to be dropping by on Monday to order, to sign books. And I think that's going to bring our conversation to an end. I want to really thank Amy for being a champ, especially at the beginning when we had some technical issues. You just really took over, and I appreciate it. And then huge congrats to May. Thanks to everyone for watching. And good evening, everyone. Bye.
Thanks so much, McKenna.
Thanks,
of course,
McKenna.
thank you.
Congratulations, May.
Thank
so
you.
happy.
Thank you.